Y'all, we have a lot to do today. Got a lot to do today. I'm excited about today. So today is holiday hacks. And somebody asked me, well, isn't a hack a bad thing? And I was like, no, it means, just kind of a shortcut. And that's really what we're looking at today. So, I don't have my glasses. That's okay. I'll look at this one. So most of you know who we are, but Allison is brand new. And so I'm going to go through the spiel for Allison. So Pastor Steve and I, when we lived in the States, had a charity called Icebox Ministries, and we had a property called Icebox Urban Farm where we taught people how to grow healthy food, how to cook healthy food, and how to preserve healthy food. This was our classroom. We had a big classroom. We had a cooking kitchen, a teaching kitchen. We had an enormous greenhouse and community gardens, and we worked in a very poor community in Augusta, Georgia, doing these things and building community and cooking with the folks in the area. We helped install 200 raised bed gardens in that community, teaching people how to garden. And then what was a food desert became so abundant that they had to then learn how to preserve that food because they weren't sure what to do with all of it. So these are some pictures. We used to teach slow cooker classes because slow cookers are very efficient ways of cooking things, and that's something that we're looking into doing in the next year is a slow cooker class. We're working on that now. It will happen, so we'll get the logistics to you as soon as we can. These are just some other pictures of us teaching people how to can things like tomatoes and jam and that kind of thing. And so that's what Pastor Steve and I were doing when God called us into the ministry and God called us to Scotland. And so we went to Glasgow to the Broomhill Church there, and we were pastors. And we were pastors there for a little over a year and a half. And then we had an opportunity to come and preach here in Largs because they were without a pastor. And then God called us to Largs, and the community here and the congregation graciously received us, and that's where we've been for the last 3.5 years, and have absolutely no intention of going anywhere ever. So we do love it here. So that's a little background of why we're doing what we're doing, because it's important for us to take care of our bodies. It's important for us to take care of each other. And we can do that through food because so many health issues and health complications comes from what we put in our bodies. And so it's important for us to definitely take care of ourselves and our loved ones. Okay, so today, normally you would have a recipe in front of you, and you're missing a recipe today. And the reason for that is that we're going to learn, this is another method recipe. I will get you a copy of the recipe that we're doing today. I'll email it to you. But I don't want you to focus on that. I want you to learn the process, because this first recipe that we're going to do, and I'll go over knife safety in just a second. The first recipe that we're going to do is, it's so versatile. You can put anything in it. You can tweak the flavor profiles in any way, and it's great for an appetizer. It's great for breakfast, especially if you've got family coming for the holidays and you've got to cook breakfast for a crowd, or you're running low on time. This is the kind of thing you can prep the night before, throw it in the fridge, and then pop it in the oven the next morning, and it's absolutely brilliant. Or you could have it for dinner with a side salad or a veg. It's an absolutely fantastic recipe. Before we go any further, though, we do want to talk knife safety. One of the things that is probably the most important thing is to tuck your fingers. Colin, you were saying that you bought some new knives. Well, my parents sent us a care package, and we opened it a couple of days ago. Yeah, I'm gonna call you out.
Don't you do it.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna call you out. And so my parents sent us a beautiful set of Japanese knives. They're absolutely gorgeous. And of course, they're for Steve because he's the favorite. And so Steve got these beautiful knives as a Christmas gift from my folks. And the very first time, if you want to tell them.
Fine. So I used one of the small ones, and I cut a tomato using proper knife skills. But I had cut the top off of it, and you know, the part with the little stem, and I didn't want to waste any of it. So I picked it up and cut it wrong. I cut toward my finger, and just barely, I mean, feather light touched my finger. And I thought, well, that might have cut me, and it did. They're that sharp. I hardly felt it. Just a little tiny paper cut.
But what was the reason? What was the reason?
Because it didn't touch my fingers.
That's right. So, always, I don't care. I mean, and Steve has been cooking for a very long time. He's a great cook, but you just forget. So always remember to tuck those fingers when you're chopping. It's so, so important. And so, again, going over, make sure your knife always stays on the cutting board. Never put a knife in a sink full of water. That is a disaster waiting to happen. Never try to catch a falling knife. If your knife falls off of your workstation today, or if you're at home, just move out of the way because you don't want anything to come in contact with that knife except the ground. Keep your mind on the task. Don't text and try to, chop things at the same time. Don't get distracted. Choose the right knife for the job. That's why you have two knives. You have a large one and you've got a small paring knife. These are the two knives you have on your board. And I want you to use the knife that you're most comfortable using, okay? Tuck your fingers, tuck, 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 and always cut away from your body. I've got a friend who does this kind of thing right here. That is not the best way to do it, because what we want to do is we want to keep our knives sharp, because fewer accidents happen in the kitchen with a sharp knife. And so if we do this, then we're more likely to cut ourselves. So always tuck and always chop away from your body. Okay, so those are our knife skills. It's always good to be reminded of that. Now, the only slides I have, the only one you're going to see is from me today is the food can. And so that's all you're going to see today. We're going to go through this recipe, and you don't have to remember the ingredients or the measurements because I will send it to you. But it's the most important thing is to learn the process. Okay, so it's called a strata, and it's essentially a savory bread pudding. And it is a brilliant way to use up stale bread, day-old bread, any kind of bread. You can use crumpets, you can use sourdough, you could use sliced white bread, you can use brown, any kind of bread. It is a brilliant way and a delicious way to use up bread. In fact, if you've got some bread in the freezer and you're like, oh, this is getting a little old, that is a brilliant thing. Let's use it. And it becomes just a carrier for all these delicious flavors. So what you have in front of you is you have your bowl, and in your bowl you've got a green onion and you've got some white onions. So the first thing we're gonna do is you're gonna take the white onion out of your bowl and you're gonna chop it into small cubes, and we're gonna saute that onion. Okay, so that's the first step that we're gonna do. And I'm gonna get you some olive oil for your pans. It's over by the side of the hob right there. Do you see them? Yeah. So if you would go around and give everybody just a teaspoon, about a teaspoon, it doesn't take much, between a teaspoon or two. Do you want your chopper thing? Or are you good? Are you sure? Let me get you a tea towel to put under your cutting board. Now, if your cutting board is slippery, we can stick a towel underneath it, and that'll help because you just slide all over the place. Let's see if that helps. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's much better. How are we doing? Everybody looks okay. All right, good deal. Yeah, just a teaspoon or so of olive oil is all you need. Okay. Carol, we've got an extra seat if you'd like to cook with us. So what you're going to want to do once you get your onion chopped up, and it's not a whole lot, is both of you are going to put your onion in the pan. Steve, could I have a little olive oil as well? Yep. You're going to put it in your pan. You're going to make sure that your hob is on lock, and then you're going to turn it on and get it on low. How are we doing over here? Yeah, you're good. And then get that down to perfect.
I'm gonna leave this up here just in case.
Thank you. Yeah, so you're locked. Locked and loaded. There we go. We'll get you turned down to about right there. How are you doing, Colin? Are you good? Yeah. I'm gonna bring it down just a touch. Yeah. And you want to have that flame pretty low. You're doing fine.
I've looked at it.
Okay. So we're gonna turn it off. And we're gonna get you locked. There we go. And we're gonna get you right about there. Yeah. And then you got this. Yeah. You doing okay over here? Yeah. So you're going to cook your onion together if there's two of you. All right. Here. Woo. Fire down. And we don't want a whole lot of color on this. We essentially want to just kind of wilt it down. Now, while that's happening, I want you to take everything out of your bowl, and you're going to put it on your, we're going to be multitasking here. Yep, take everything out of your bowl. And down at one end, so Libby, you've got some, and Danny, you've got some. Everybody needs 2 eggs. So Steve, if you want to make sure everybody gets 2 eggs, that would be super helpful. And you're going to crack those 2 eggs into your bowl.
Every person or
Every person is going to get 2 eggs. And watch your onions.
2 eggs for you.
Into the blue bowl. Eggs are going to go into your blue bowl. Yep. Go ahead and do those before you do anything else.
Yes. Break them.
Because
I didn't understand that either. I'm not sure. You must be, because you've got 2 pans. So you each need 2. And so, yeah, 2 eggs into that mold. Yes.
So go ahead and get your eggs in there as quick as you can in your blue bowl.
Just have a question.
Yeah, but we need to take all of this stuff out first. There we go. All right. There you go. All right. Yeah, make sure you give your onions a stir. All right, I'm going to turn mine off. Mine are crispy. There we go. And once they wilt down a little bit, you can turn your hob off. Because all we wanted to do was just kind of give them a little bit of a cook. I'm going to see how we're doing. Yeah, you're good. Libby, you can turn yours off. Yeah, you can turn yours off. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and turn yours off. We're good. Yeah. All right. Maybe another 30 seconds or so. A little bit longer for you. Yeah, another. We want to get just a little color on it. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put a cup of milk in the blue bowl with our eggs. You have some measuring cups. That's the big cup. Yeah, that's perfect. No. Oh, I see. Okay. You got to do that first. Then there we go. You're right. Yeah. So you're going to pass the milk down, and each one of you are going to put 1 cup of milk in with your eggs. All right, so that's your big cup. 1 cup of milk. Pass this down to Colin. All right. Now, okay. Here's your milk. We need 1 cup. That's okay for that to be in there. Little, all the way to the top. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. Just a touch more. So, now you're going to take the fork that's on your desk and you're going to whisk that stuff together. Okay? All right. Brilliant. Okay. Now I want you to add your salt and pepper. You have your salt and pepper in a little cup. Add that. And we're going to continue whisking that together. Now what you've done here is you have made the custard that is going into your strata. So any good bread pudding, whether savory or sweet, has a custard. And that is what you've made here with your eggs and your milk and your salt and pepper. Now, if you were going to make a strata that's sweet, let's say you were going to make a cinnamon roll strata, you would add sugar and brown sugar and a little bit of maybe clove or nutmeg to it as well. And that's what you would add to this. So you can see right there how you can immediately alter this breakfast food or whatever, this recipe. Okay, now, we've cracked our eggs, we've added our milk, we've made our custard, we've whisked to combine, and now what we're going to do is go ahead and you're going to tear or chop your spinach, and you're going to add that to your custard. I'm just going to tear mine. And go ahead and chop your green onion. Remember to tuck your fingers and get your onion in there as well. Another thing about stratas is they're super easy to throw together, and you can multiply them. However big your pan is, you can make that big of a strata, just multiply it. And once you kind of get a feel for the recipe itself, you'll be able to just kind of go with your gut and eyeball things. And you don't need a recipe. It's that kind of thing, okay? Now once you have your scallions, your green onions, and your spinach in your custard, you guys that have a partner, split your cooked onions between the two of you. Half in one and half in the other. If you're working on your own, just put it in yours. Ah! Yes.
And you put it in the morning.
Yes.
And it comes up like souffle.
Yes. That's.
That's my favorite.
This is very similar to that. So I'm giving you guys a half a cup of cheese. Yes, ma'am. You put that in there. Now, Faith, you remember coming to the one that where you cooked and made macaroni cheese? This reminds you of that, doesn't it? It's very similar. So think about those components and how they have similar flavors and similar ingredients. We basically made a custard for the macaroni cheese. Same thing with the eggs and the milk. All right, brilliant. Now, give myself. There we go. Okay. Now here's the fun part, the bread. So I've dried out our bread a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you some hunks of bread, and I want you to cube it up however big or small you want to. But listen to me, what you're going to do is you're going to put your cubed bread in here because you want to measure it. Because I don't know how much bread you're going to need. It's going to depend on how big or how small your cubes are. So you're going to cut your bread up, and you want about this much, right? So you want it to come right up to that first line, okay? And then, once you've done that, you'll dump it into your bowl, stir everything together, and pour it right back into your pan.
Is that homemade bread?
No, it is not. It looks like it, but it doesn't. Steve,
It should be.
it should be, but it is, no, it is not. So I'm going to start you out with that.
What kind of bread is this?
It's just the white, it's the, I got it from Morrison's. Farmhouse loaf, that's what it is. Yeah.
And it was marked down, so for a strata,
Oh, you
marked
got
down
these?
stuff is
Okay.
great. Even stale.
Give
is
you
good.
a couple of these. So you're going to cut that into cubes. Yeah. Let me get you some cheese. Yeah, any kind of, if you go into the store in the evenings and they've got markdowns, just a couple of chunks. Danny needs bread, Allison needs bread.
Help
There
yourself.
you go. Can't do it without cheese. All right.
Did you cut your finger? You need a plaster. We're
Do you need a
That's
plaster?
the same place I cut mine right there, isn't it?
There's no shame, no
You
shame.
do. Look here, we're twins. The non-tucking twins. Now we know. But if your knife had been dull, you would have been
Let me get
applying
you a
more
paper
force, and you
towel.
would have cut yourself even worse.
There's a towel up here. It happens to the best of us, I promise. And here's the thing, if you don't cook, if you don't take the risk, then you don't eat good food. I think, what was it, a few weeks ago, Faith got a little burn on her finger. And she was like, you know what, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. That is,
I've seen it on MasterChef.
yes.
Blue plasters.
That's right. Do you know why they're blue? Because most food isn't.
That's right.
And just in case, a little bit of plaster, if you cut a little bit off or some, it would be glaringly obvious.
Yes. Yes, yeah. You're gonna mix it up. Use your spoon and kind of mash it. You don't want to, disintegrate your bread, but you want to mash your bread into it. Give it a good stir around. Yes, that's right. You do that first to measure it. That's great. You're right. You were listening. Yes. But you don't want to overload it, so you may not need to use all your bread, because that's plenty right there. But you can try it. We'll try to fit it in. There you go. Good job. Yeah, mix it a little harder than that. Yeah, get it all good and combined. Yeah, excellent. You want to make sure that your bread is fully saturated in the custard. Because what that's going to do, those eggs and the flour in the bread is going to kind of emulsify and bring that together so that it's kind of this like loaf of deliciousness. Yeah. All right. And once you've done that, you can just pour your mixture back into your tin. And you're going to use your spoon. Here, I'm going to do it under my food cam so that you can see what I'm doing. So see how I'm just kind of mashing my bread down so that everything is just kind of damp with the custard. We want to just make sure everything is nice and custardy. There we go. Get my spinach poked down in there. Now you can imagine you could add cooked bacon to this. You could add cooked sausage to this. If you do use meat, you want to go ahead and cook it. That's going to be, hi, come on in. So you're going to want to use cooked meat. And then you can also top it with a little bit more cheese if you want to. We should have plenty of cheese in ours, but you could add sun-dried tomato. You could completely change the profile and make it Mexican by adding like some salsa and maybe some jalapenos, or I mean, you could totally just mix it up however you want to. That is perfect, Libby.
Yeah, nice and yeah.
You're welcome. Now, if you wanted to freeze these, now would be the time.
Oh, wow.
You can totally freeze it like this. Now, you could cook it and freeze it if you want to as well. But if you want to freeze it, now is the time. You would put a lid on it and label it, and then, so the oven is already at 200. You can use those trays if you want to.
That's a great idea, because sometimes we have eggs and they're just about going to be past the due date.
Yes.
And you think, oh, what can I use these eggs up for?
Yes.
You do this and freeze it.
That's right. Well, you know you can freeze eggs.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
What?
It is brilliant. Okay, so here's the process for freezing eggs. So it's going to depend on what you want to do with them. So you can either add, so you take your eggs, break them, put them in a bowl, and we like to do 4 at a time because that's what it takes for his banana bread.
2 loaves of banana bread takes 4 eggs.
4 eggs, so we'll do 4 at a time. And so you scramble them with either a pinch of salt or a pinch of sugar. I almost always use salt, just because most of the time, even with sweet things, you add a little salt. So a pinch of salt, and what that does is it helps to kind of stabilize the eggs. So you whip them with a little salt, and then put them in a zip top bag, push all the air out, and freeze them flat. That's it. That's all you gotta do. That's all you gotta do. I mean, you could do a dozen at a time if you wanted to in a bag.
Quite often we look on the counter and we go, oh, these eggs are going to be
Exactly.
They're not going to waste time.
And you know, putting them in Ziploc bags, like we learned with lunches and things, and you freeze them flat, it takes like so little room in your freezer. Yeah. So, yeah, freeze your eggs. Freeze your eggs. Don't waste them. Freeze them. Don't boil them or anything like that. They don't work if you try and freeze them that way. Trust me, I've already tried it. They're yuck. But yeah, so that's the way to do it. Yeah,
You
brilliant.
can call them and make scrambled eggs, you'd never know they
You'd
would work.
never know.
That's exactly.
But they're perfect for baking. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so that is our very first recipe today, is a strata. So you can imagine all of the things you could do with this recipe and how easy it is and how inexpensive it is. And if you think about it, it's got your spinach in it, so you've got some great veg in there. You've got some alums in there, and that's good for your immune system. You've got your carbohydrates in there with your bread. You've got great protein and calcium with the eggs and the cheese and the milk. And again, you could add anything to it. Totally, and you could switch up the cheese. You could put mozzarella and some dried tomatoes, and so the possibilities are endless. Yeah, endless. And also, if you wanted to freeze it, you can also put it in a Ziploc bag and freeze it flat, and then thaw it and put it in your roasting pan, whatever pan you want to use. So just to save room. Okay, so Steve is going to collect all of yours, and he's going to put those in the oven. And while we work on our next thing, yes, uncovered, he's going to bake those at 200 for about 25 minutes. May take a little longer because the oven's going to be full because we're going to put them all in there. So,
You can put them in the air fryer.
pardon?
You can put them in the air fryer.
You could probably, I don't have an air fryer, and so I can't consult with you. I know. Well, right now, they are probably the most expensive they have ever been. And so, so they're a little cost prohibitive right now, but
£70 for an air fryer, but I'll put it £30.
yeah,
£70.
yeah. Because everybody's wanting one. That's exactly right. Okay, so what we're going to do is,
How long do these go?
they go for probably 25, maybe 30 minutes because there's so many in the oven. But your oven should be ready, and I think that your trays are where they should be. Okay. All right, so you are going to need your cutting boards for this next thing. Only because we're going to be rolling a tortilla out on it. And so if anybody needs a kitchen towel just to kind of tidy up your space, there you go. Yeah. You'll be using one of your knives. Well, you know what? No, you're not. You won't be using your knives. So all you're going to need is your cutting board. So the rest of the stuff you can kind of push towards the edge of your table, and we'll get that cleaned up in just a minute. We're a little short-handed this morning. Normally we have a couple of, John and Teresa are usually with us, and they had some things going on today, so, but that's all right.
We do anything to help.
I'm going to put you to work after this. So, but what's next is, this is your turn. All right? Yes. Okay, so one of the most delicious things that you can have if you make a strata like this, one of the best things that you can put on it is a Hollandaise sauce. And Steve has an absolutely brilliant recipe for Hollandaise, and he's going to share that with you. So I'm going to share the spotlight with him. Are you going to need the food can? Sure. Okay, then I'm just going to leave this the way it is and move this stuff out of the way. Brilliant. Hollandaise sauce is super easy to make. There's a lot of recipes that are complicated, but Steve's is brilliant.
All right, so I'm going to bring up the heavy machinery here. We're using a food processor for this. You can use an immersion blender. I like to use a food processor because it's easy to, well, you'll see what you're doing. Tasha, would you melt me a stick of butter, 250?
Yes, I would be glad to do
Because I
that.
completely forgot to do that.
Yeah.
I had everything else ready. Make sure it's 250. So, like Tasha was saying, there is nothing better than Hollandaise sauce on this strata. But Hollandaise sauce is also good on eggs Benedict, poached egg with some smoked salmon or some bacon. It's just good all by itself because it's basically butter and lemon. And I love lemon, and I like butter a little too much. But I'll tell you a way to, when we get to the end of this, I'll tell you a way to lower the calories. But after you make this, you can, it'll probably be more than you need for just one meal. You can put it in the fridge as long as you use it in a couple of days. It will, when you put it in the fridge, because it's got so much butter in it, it will get solid. So you can just kind of spoon it out, put it on top of whatever you're going to do, or put it in a bowl, put it in the microwave for just a few seconds. It comes back really nicely. So we got butter coming?
Yeah, you got butter coming.
Okay, good. Then I'll go ahead and get started. And so, I used to only get Hollandaise sauce when I was a teenager. I loved it because I only have it every now and then on special occasions. But nothing makes a day feel more special to me, like a birthday or Christmas or a day off or whatever, than having something with Hollandaise sauce for breakfast. I use it for other meals as well. But I used to think that you could only get it at fancy restaurants. But it really is easy enough to make in your own kitchen. And as we've heard many times this time of year, there's no place like home for the holidays. They don't get any better than that. So what we're going to do, all we're going to do is take 250 grams of unsalted butter. I like salted, to be honest. This is an adaptation of a recipe from a book called Bread by Paul Hollywood. If you know Paul Hollywood from the baking show. He has a book called Bread that is, he gives recipes for different kinds of bread, sourdough bread and bloomers and crumpets and that kind of thing. And then he'll do...
Steve,
yes.
turn your mic on.
Oh, thank you. And then he'll do, is that better? And then he'll do a recipe for a meal that features that bread. So this is part of, he does a crumpet recipe and then gives a recipe for eggs Benedict. And this easy Hollandaise is part of that. So all we're going to do is we're going to take 250 grams of unsalted butter. We're going to melt it. Paul Hollywood says at low heat in a pan. I always use the microwave. It's just fine. Just don't let it go too long because you'll wind up with ghee because it'll separate. You'll wind up with clarified butter. But you just stir it up, and you don't want it super, super hot because if it's super hot, when you mix it in your food processor with your eggs, you'll cook your eggs, and you don't want that. So what we're going to do is, and by the way, you do want 250 grams of unsalted butter, and I thought I would mention to you, usually that's a block of butter, unless you go to farm foods, where butter is cheaper, but it's also 225 grams. It's 10% smaller than the ones you get like at Morrison's or Sainsbury's. So if it's not more than 10% cheaper, it's not cheaper. So always, when you think things are cheaper, look at the size.
It's the
Yeah.
size of the milk. Yeah,
So this is 250 grams
that's correct.
melted salted butter, even though it says unsalted on the recipe. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 3 egg yolks. I've got these over here. Don't forget to save your egg whites when you separate your eggs. So I've got 3 egg yolks. And I have never used this particular food processor, but it looks pretty straightforward. It has 3 buttons, so that's good. So So I'm putting 3 egg yolks in here. At room temperature, by the way. One of the things that can go wrong when you make Hollandaise, or when you make mayonnaise, by the way, is that it can split. It cannot emulsify right. And one of the reasons for that is because of cold temperatures. People use cold eggs. So let your eggs come to room temperature. So we're putting the egg yolks and 1 tablespoon of water and the juice of half a lemon, which is also about a tablespoon. Now, I'm just going to tell you what I do, and you might want to do it too. I omit the tablespoon of water and replace it with lemon juice because I like the lemon better. So I'm doing the juice of
See,
a lemon. Yes.
most Brits don't put their eggs in the fridge. Unlike
Exactly. Yeah. So don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't. We never, when we had a farm, we never did, because, they were, if anything, they were too fresh, because you try to boil a very fresh egg, and it's impossible to peel.
Oh, I have a trick for that.
Oh, but yes, Tasha has, because we had hundreds of eggs and got tired of carrying them up. Tell them your trick.
You go right
Well,
ahead.
no, it works every time.
Oh, okay. So y'all probably know this already, but you take your egg, you take the fat end of the egg, and you take a spoon and you give it a whack. And you crack it. Then you boil it.
What?
It peels perfectly every time.
Did you not before you boil it?
Mhm.
Give it a whack, just to break. So what it is
But when
is
the egg roll, where's the pan?
no. You don't put a hole in it. You just give it a good whack and just crack it. There's an air pocket here, right?
Yeah.
And depending on how fresh it is or how not fresh it is, that air pocket is either larger or smaller. And what you're doing is you're collapsing that egg pocket, and that allows the white to kind of give way. That albumin.
I'm going to turn this on while I keep going.
That's
Anyway,
amazing.
works
Thank
every
you.
time. Works every time.
Yeah,
sure. How's it going?
Good.
Now tell us what you're doing.
So I am letting this run with the egg yolks and the water and lemon juice for 1 minute. And I'm just going to let it go for a minute. Yes, please. Thank you very much. And this is just salt and pepper combined. So we're going to let that go for just a minute.
I made potato salad for my daughter's wedding with 144 eggs
Oh
and
my
chicken on that egg.
Ah.
Because I spent all afternoon peeling the eggs.
Oh yeah. When we had our farm, we would have just hundreds of eggs. I mean, it was because we had hundreds of chickens at one point. We had.
Yeah, we had lots and lots of chickens because we were providing to restaurants in the area. We had a couple of chefs that we provided eggs for. Friends and family, but we didn't sell at farmers markets or anything. We just had a couple of chefs we worked with. Same with our pastured chicken. We also raised for restaurants. So. But we were small scale, but it was still a lot, especially in the spring. And see, that's where the beginning of Icebox Ministries came from, because I was away at a youth ministry event, and a friend of mine who was a principal at a school, headmaster at a school, was telling me about this list of kids. She'd gotten a list of kids who were homeless, living in cars, living with aunts or grandparents, and it was just mind-boggling to us that in the spring we'd have more eggs than we knew what to do with, more roosters than we knew what to do with, and roosters make the best chicken noodle soup, especially mean roosters. They make really good chicken noodle soup. And so that's where Icebox Ministries began, was us working with other farmers to get food to families that needed it. And that was the beginning of it. So that was what, in 2005, 13, 2012.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you be special?
Of course.
Okay, so I've let this go for a little over a minute. It's not going to go too long, don't worry about it. It's just going to get nicely mixed. And then I'm just going to slowly trickle the butter in. You don't want to dump it too fast. Every once in a while you give it a little shake to make sure the milk, sometimes when you melt it, especially in the microwave, the milk fat, it'll separate a little bit. Basically, we're just letting the magic happen. Let it go just for another minute. And then you want to salt and pepper this to your taste. It just means like maybe, I probably put a half a teaspoon of mixed salt and pepper. It may need more, but I'm going to hold it. And then you just want to stop it. Scrape down the sides. And then we're going to give it just one more pulse. So can you see what that looks like? So what are we going to do with this stuff?
So what we're gonna do is you're gonna put it into these 4-ounce cups, and everybody will take some home to enjoy with their strata. Yeah.
Now I wanted to I mentioned that you can put this in the fridge and it will solidify, and you'll want to heat it up. Another thing you can do is, and we found this out over the last year while we were dieting, because I love Hollandaise sauce and I didn't want to miss out on it. But what you can do is just make it, and what I say in the recipe is that you can replace half the butter with yogurt. Easiest way to do that is just make it and then cut it with yogurt and add a little more lemon juice to your taste. And you really, as long as you don't add, a ton of yogurt, but you can split it pretty much 50-50 with yogurt. If you add a little more lemon, you still get that buttery flavor. So it's not very low calorie, but it's certainly less low calorie than it would be if it only had butter. All right. So I'm going to put these into some.
Yeah, they're right here.
Cool.
Yeah, good job. Thanks, huh? We were only going to do one of these per person, but because
After this.
Okay.
Yeah, after this. But because we are missing a couple of people, I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna do 2 of these. So, these are tortilla roll-ups, also known as pinwheels. I don't know how many of you are familiar with using tortillas. I don't know if you use them often, but they're an incredibly versatile product. Now these tortillas are enormous. I buy these from a restaurant supply company, but you can get tortillas in Morrison's and Sainsbury's, and you can get the whole wheat ones if you want to. You can even get like the flavored ones. They're tomato or spinach flavored. Yeah, you can use them for Mexican food, obviously, but then you can also use them for sandwiches, and they're just a great product.
How are the carbs?
Pardon?
Is it less than bread?
Pardon?
Carbs.
I think it's about the same. Most tortillas are made with, like bread will be made with olive oil. Most tortillas these days are made with some sort of oil, but traditionally they're made with lard.
Oh,
Traditionally they're made with lard. So, yes.
When you buy these, I find that the most thing that we waste in the house is these, because they tell you on the packet, if you use the kind of certain items, you can't eat them. That's why I never buy them, because you only use 2 and about 4 or 5 don't get in the bin.
Freeze them.
Well, it says on it, do not freeze this product. So you're the expert, you know.
Liar, liar, pants on fire.
Right, okay, there we are, thanks.
Liar, liar, pants on fire.
Unless they
I
moldy,
think I've
they're
got
all
enough to give everybody 2.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna go ahead and give you.
Long past we
These.
buy them expired.
Actually, let me give you, that's a half one there. So, let me give you guys these. So what we're gonna do today is we're gonna do what's called a pinwheel roll up. And the one that we're gonna do today is cheese and onion. Simple, basic. At the party, we'll have cheese and onion, we'll have turkey with cucumber and ham and cheese. So you can put anything in these, but the key is, one of the keys is to make them the night before, the day before, and then you roll them in some cling film and put them in the fridge. And it kind of, the tortilla relaxes and it kind of sets, and that's key to keeping your pinwheels together. If you do them on the day of, a lot of times you'll have to stick a toothpick in them because the tortilla wants to unroll, right? So that's what we're gonna do. But we're gonna use the soft cheese to, need my stuff here. Everybody have onions? Yes, we're good. Okay, so so you could go ahead and chop your green onions. This is a very simple, straightforward recipe, but it is so fun for a party. And it's super easy and it's super cheap to do. And you can make loads of them for very little. You doing all right? No, that's the best part. So Danny asked a good question. He asked about the green part of the onions. To me, that is like the most delicious part. And it's colorful and lovely. So, but if you don't want to use it, you don't have to. But I definitely love that part. So I'm gonna get your. The plan was for you all to make one tortilla with a half of one of these soft cheese. So we're gonna make 2. And so once you've got your green onion chopped up, you want to chop it up pretty fine because you're gonna sprinkle it on your tortilla. So the recipe is this, super, super simple. You chop your green onion. You know what, I'm gonna chop that one up this way, Colin. Chop up your green onion pretty fine. And then your tables have been sanitized. So if you want to keep your onion on your board and then put your tortilla on your table, that's fine. You're gonna open up your cream cheese, your soft cheese, and you're gonna take your spoon and you're gonna spread your soft cheese. I'll show you up here on the food cam. You take your spoon and you're gonna put a glob of your soft cheese on your tortilla, a couple of heaping tablespoons, and then you're gonna spread it over the entire surface of your tortilla. You don't want it too thick because then when you roll your tortilla, it'll kind of smush out the end, and we don't want that to happen. So just about like that. Another cool thing you can do with these tortillas is you can make pizza with them. Just top it with a little pizza sauce and then your cheese and whatever else you want on it and bake it. Makes a really great thin crust pizza. So see how much I've got on mine? It's not a whole lot. Okay. How are the? Oh yeah, but you know what? I think. How long has it been? Okay. Yeah, they're pretty close. You might want to rotate the top and bottom. Maybe. Yeah, I'd give them maybe 2 more minutes and then I would take them out.
Alexa, add 2 minutes.
Oh, this is for you. I was coming in first, guys. Okay. I'm not. Now, one of the things that we use, I think, yeah, there's a scallion up here. One of the things, and you'll see Steve use it when he demos the next thing, is he uses scissors to chop his scallions. And so you can just cut them like that with your scissors. And it just makes life a little bit easier. Especially when you have an entire bunch of them. Okay. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take half, oh, see, Libby, you're way ahead of me. You're gonna take half of your scallions and you're gonna sprinkle that over your tortilla. And I'm gonna get my cup over here. Alright. And I am gonna sprinkle some cheese. You might want to break up that bit right there. So you want to sprinkle that good with cheese. A little bit more at the top. So you're going to cover your entire tortilla with some cheese. Yeah, there we go. Get that good and covered. Yeah, because you're going to do 2 of them. Yeah, good question. All right, there we go. Just kind of throwing cheese all over you. And then give me 1 second and I'll show you a trick to rolling. I know you love your cheese. You may need to spread that out a little bit more. Yeah. Allison, you'll need to break up that little chunk of cheese right there before you roll it. All right, and I'm going to put this on and then you can put your onion on. And just spread that out a little bit. Okay. So there's our first one. Okay, so, oh, I gotta put some cheese on mine. Here we go. Okay. Seriously, these are like super simple. All right, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna take the base of your tortilla and you're gonna lift it with your fingers and you're gonna get a little mucky here. Just do a little fold, real little fold, and then you're gonna, as tightly as you can, roll that tortilla and just keep rolling until you get to the end. And when you get to the end, set it on the seam so that the seam is down on the bottom. Okay? Brilliant. And I'm going to come around with some cling film and I'm going to wrap those up for you while you work on your second one. All right? So, you can go ahead and get your second tortilla out. Get your soft cheese on that. I don't have any workspace, do I? Here. These are actually really good with peanut butter and jam. Really good with peanut butter and jam. Yeah. Yeah. Peanut butter and jam roll-ups. Yeah.
I like the smoked salmon and cream cheese. So.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
And that's what's awesome is, like the strata, you can make them taste like anything. You can make them taste like pizza. You can make them taste like
Oh yeah.
tacos, like all sorts of things.
Yeah, go ahead and start the second one. And Steve, would you go around with the cheese? Once everybody's got their cream cheese on there. And
What am I giving them?
just one scoop of it. Just spread it over, however much it takes to spread it over the whole tortilla. Right. So.
I'm just saying, I've often looked at these in the supermarket and thought, oh,
Well, now you do.
Yes. Put mince.
Mince actually.
Ooh, yeah.
Stuff.
Like an enchilada.
Oh.
Do they need cooked
They don't?
or heated?
No? Unless you want them to
Spread
be,
that around a little
then you
bit.
could, but they don't have to be. You could totally cut them and put them in a pan and bake them, and they'll get all crispy on the edges as well. Yeah, so you could do that. Very versatile. Yeah. In fact, you can do the exact same process with puff pastry, and then cut it and put it in a pan and bake it, and it is brilliant. Yeah.
There we go, there we go.
So you can do the same with that.
What was it we got? We could make it pizza dough. And we got puff pastry.
Oh, sorry, Carol.
And
Yum.
that was a pizza. I tell you, it was the most strangest looking pizza I've ever seen.
Sounds delicious.
Oh, I bet it was delicious. Yum.
Like that?
That's a better way to do it.
Puff pastry pizza.
Nice job, Danny.
You did really actually did the push aside.
Now again, whenever you're going to take these home and you're going to stick them in the fridge, and then you are going to leave them overnight, or or just give it some time, like 3 or 4 hours, and then you'll take them out, take the cling film off, and slice it into bite-sized pieces. And that is all you have to do. And you put it out on a tray and it looks really lovely. You could sprinkle some green scallions over the top of it if you wanted to, just to make it pretty. Some paprika for some color. You can do egg mayo roll-ups. Those are always really popular. Any kind of filling you can think of.
Tomato cheese.
Yeah.
Tomato cheese.
Pimento cheese. Yeah. So Steve, do you want to go talk about your ranch dressing?
What needs to happen with the strata?
It just needs to come out. That's all.
Oven stays on.
Yes, we probably no, leave the oven. I'm gonna put your olive things in a few minutes when it gets closer to the party time. Oh, what a good idea! Yeah.
Sit up and you can see what's in them.
True.
So yeah, it's like
Should everything else in it?
You're quite welcome.
You were just saying.
I didn't know what to do. Just to make it a change from bread.
So Steve is going to share with you now and this is our last thing today. And then when Steve is all done, your stratas are gorgeous. So they're cooling in the kitchen. And whenever we finish up, when Steve finishes with his, what we'll do is we'll straighten up. We'll bring everything down to one table, your cutting boards, your knives and everything, your pans. And then these are very cool, so we can put those away. And then, and we'll just wipe the tables down. And the party will start about 12. There are a few things that I'll need help with the food. So if you're staying, yes ma'am?
There's
Yes.
a party afterwards?
Yes, the holiday party.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so if you're staying, if you want to help us, that would be great. So yeah, but Steve is going to show. Now this, and I'm going to just preface this by saying, this is one of my favorite dressings, dips, whatever. You're going to talk about that too. It is absolutely fabulous, and it's also extremely versatile. So, all right, floor is
Yeah,
yours.
this is one of those things that whenever we do events or dinners or whatever, we usually have this with veggies, or you can have it on as a salad dressing. You can have. I was just thinking it would be good on these the pinwheels that you just
Well, you
made.
can dip the pinwheels in it.
Yeah, you can ranches. You know ranch dressing, so ranch dressing is good with just about everything.
We bought 3 bottles of ranch dressing back from Canada.
So I don't remember when this recipe sort of came about. I think it came about because we just had some veggies at Icebox that we had harvested, and we needed some sort of dressing or dip, and I used what we had. And the kids went crazy for it, and people would say, "That's the best ranch dressing I've ever had. What's your recipe?" And I was like, "Well, really don't have a recipe exactly." And so the recipe that you have there is as close to a recipe as it gets. I sent this to a person a couple of years ago who wanted to know how to do this. And it really is more a method than anything else. So the first thing that you want to decide is whether you want a dressing or you want a dip. And that is, how thick do you want it to be? And then what you're going to do first is you're going to make a base that you're going to add flavor to. And the way you make the base is like this. You take some combination of mayonnaise, can be low-calorie mayonnaise if you want, yogurt, buttermilk, milk. I think that's about it. It can be Greek yogurt, it can be regular yogurt. So you're going to make a base as thick as you want. And what I did was I gave you kind of the typical way that I make it for a dip. And what I usually do is I take a quart jar, and a mayonnaise jar is about the size of a quart jar. I've got a quart jar back there. And I fill it about half full with mayonnaise. Now back in the South, I would have used Duke's mayonnaise, which is the kind that everybody in Georgia and South Carolina and North Carolina eats. And we used to bring it over in our suitcases, and we had people send it over. You can get it on Amazon. It's like 35 pounds for a little jar. I don't know how desperate you have to be for Duke's, but I'll tell you a secret. Morrison's store brand mayo is as close to Duke's as we've found. And we found this totally by accident because we got some in a donation and we tasted it. Wow, that's really very Duke's-like. So the nice thing is, because a mayonnaise jar is about a quart, once you've used half of the mayonnaise, and I used it for the other recipe, I've got half in here. So I'm going to take, so it's half mayonnaise, and then I'm using Greek yogurt. Again, this is just Morrison's Greek yogurt. And I'm going to fill this jar not quite full because I want room for a few other ingredients, but almost. I'm coming up pretty close to the top. You can always add more later. Can you see where that is? About right there. All right, so I did the yogurt and the mayonnaise, and again, I could use buttermilk. I could have used milk. I could have used nothing but yogurt if I wanted to, because that, whatever you like and whatever is the right thickness. Some combination, they'll have slightly different flavors, slightly different consistencies, but for today I'm just doing half Greek yogurt, half mayonnaise. Now that is going to be the base of your dressing. Now, at this point is when you can either decide that you want to make ranch dressing or some other kind of dressing. Over there on that cheese tray, there's some beautiful Stilton. And if you took a wedge, maybe about that much, so kind of about the size you'd normally buy, blue cheese, crumble it in here, you've got the best blue cheese dressing you've ever tasted. And that's all you do. You just add the blue cheese to this base. Let it sit a day because the flavor really comes through. You could also use, you could do Parmesan, and you could do, sometimes we do oregano and preserved lemons. Those are just lemons that have been preserved in salt, and we blend them up. And that and oregano and this base is delicious. There are all sorts of flavor combinations that you could use with just this base. But what we're going to do is my quote-unquote ranch. And what we're going to do is we're going to add about a tablespoon of onion granules and about a tablespoon of garlic granules. And I'm going to stir that up really good. And again, this is better if you let it sit a day, because those onion and garlic granules really soften and really distribute their flavor into the base. Now, what I like to do as well, on your recipe it says to add chives. You can use spring onions just as well. Whatever anything that's kind of green and oniony. And I think this really is what sort of takes it over the top. And like Tasha said, because I like to look for shortcuts, I like to just leave the rubber band on the bunch, rinse it really well, and then just cut it with scissors. And you can cut these as big or as fine as you want. And I like quite a few in here, so I'm probably gonna wind up with several tablespoons of this. And again, if you want to, you can use a knife and get these really fine, but I don't mind them. I don't mind them kind of chunky. So a good handful. Stir that in. About that much. And then you can taste it, and if you wanted to, you could add salt and pepper. Some people like to add dill to their ranch. A lot of ranch recipes you see will have dill and a lot of other things, but what I have found is when you serve this, especially to kids, they like it just the way it is. And that's it. That's all you do, and you'll be able to taste some that I made yesterday. It's great on vegetables. It's great as a salad dressing. Again, if you're going to use it as a salad dressing, add a little milk or buttermilk, or just use plain yogurt so it's a little thinner. Maybe a little more yogurt than mayonnaise. So that's it.
My grandsons eat that every day with veg, with loads of veg, so, you know, really good eaters.
Yeah.
I'm going to go straight home and give a recipe to my son, because the ranch dressing is really expensive.
Exactly.
It is.
Yeah. And it's got a lot of, other, well, especially in the States, preservatives and things that you really don't
in
want.
Canada.
Yeah.
So,
And if you make it yourself, you know exactly how much salt and how much,
yeah.
and it's probiotic because you put yogurt in it as well. So you got this.
So how long will that last?
Can't tell you that because I've never, a couple of days probably. No, I don't know.
It never lasts very long.
But it'll last as long as the mayonnaise and the yogurt will last. So this would probably stay good for a couple of weeks in your fridge, at least, if not longer than that. So,
Yeah. You'll know if it's not. It's one of those kind of things. It's not a hidden thing. You'll know if it's not good.
That's right.
Just like milk or whatever.
So that's how you do it. And like I said, you can use yogurt, you can use sour cream. Just don't use Miracle Whip. Miracle Whip is the American equivalent of salad cream. It's kind of sweet. It's like sweet mayonnaise.
It's horrible.
Good. That's a great thing.
Yeah, it is a great thing. Thank you
All
very
right.
much. So we'll have some of that on our table as well for you guys to try. One thing I forgot. We said we would talk about mocktails.
Oh yeah.
So before we close out, we've got a few minutes. We've got time. So why don't we just go over, just quickly, kind of some thoughts on holiday mocktails. And would you get 2 glasses out of the cabinet there? This is very brief and quick, and it's probably not rocket science, and y'all probably know this. So I'm gonna.
But maybe you never thought of it.
But maybe it's some things you haven't thought of. All right. That's my tortilla that I didn't. Oh no, my goodness. Well, you can
I'll
just.
just take this too.
You can take this as well. Put that under the tray and you can take them both. Thank you. You can have that as well. Excellent. And you can help me with this, Steve. I just had some thoughts on it. Would you also bring me some diluting juice?
Yep.
Okay. There are things in our home that we can make a lovely mocktail with that pretty much everybody has. Almost everybody, especially if you have kids, has diluting juice at home. And if not, you could go with orange juice or whatever you'd like. Basically, you're going to need kind of your base flavor. So you can use a sparkling water. If you've got a soda stream at home, you can fizz your own, or you can buy bottles of it. This is the Just Essentials range by Asda. It's their diet lemonade, and it's, I think, like 28p or something for this bottle. And what I like about it is it's not overly sweet and sticky. You know, like some lemonades can just be too like. So this is, it's almost like a lightly lemoned tonic to me. Which tonic is a good way to have. That's a good base to start with as well. So you basically want to have a base, and then you want to have some things that you enhance that with. And I mean, like I said, this is not rocket science. You guys know this stuff. But it's good to be reminded of things that are sitting around our house that we can use to make nice drinks when people come over. You know, especially if you don't drink alcohol. So you're gonna start, oh, you can bring some ice. Oh, we're getting fancy up in here. Fantastic. Go ahead and put some in here as well. So we want to think about our base, and so I'm just going to use this lemonade as our base because it has a nice, mild, lemony flavor. And it's just kind of easy to build on. So that's that. And it's really inexpensive. And then you can take something like this orange diluting juice and just do a tiny little bit like that. Then I love this product. This is a cranberry juice drink that they have at Morrison's. It's really low in calories and it's very refreshing. And then I like to top it off with just a little pink. You see how pretty that is? And then you can take your fruit and just do a quick garnish of fruit. And it looks lovely, you know, and it doesn't cost a lot to do that. It's just really simple things that you're going to have on hand at home. And it could be, and the combination of orange and cranberry is so, so nice. You could also do a little coconut water. That's a really nice flavor mixed with the orange and the cranberry. There are these little, Skinny Foods makes little flavor drops as well. So there's like this blue raspberry, raspberry burst. This one is a cosmopolitan. And you can drop a couple of those into your base flavor, and then that'll fancy up your drinks as well. You know, if you wanted, you could even rim your glass. Oh, you can
Very sparingly with the flavor drops, by the way.
Yes, beef.
Especially the blue raspberry, despite how delicious it looks. More than about 2 of these in a drink is.
Yeah, it's
way too
really
much.
But what are these, a syrup or something?
Yeah, it's like it's called a flavor drop, so it's really much more concentrated than a syrup. So, like seriously, a drop of this in
Just
some of
a
that
glass of
lemonade
that.
makes it blue raspberry.
Yeah. So to rim a glass, you just take your lime or lemon, or you could use a little sugar water if you wanted to, and you just have a glass, a plate with your sugar in it, and then that's how you rim your glass. And it looks all fancy, isn't that all fancy? So then you could take your, there you go, your drink poured in and add your accessories. So there you go. Just some fun ideas for fancy drinks that look lovely and taste delicious, and for those of us who don't partake. So, or even if you do, you could add to that if you wanted to. But yeah, just lovely, inexpensive ways to kind of festive up the holidays. So, or if you're watching your calories. Yeah, absolutely. And it is nice, and it does feel like you're kind of splurging a little bit. So, okay. Does anybody have any questions on that? Oh, thank you. All right. So now we can, we'll kind of tidy up, and Faith, if you want to wash your hands, I'm going to have you work on our crudité platter. That would be okay for the party? And, all right.
We're gonna let them taste it, right?
Let them taste.
The ranch and the thing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. At the party, absolutely, yeah. Oh, yeah, we're going to at the party.
So what do you want us to do now?
Okay, so, so what we're gonna do now is I've got this big white bin, and we're gonna put everything except the knives in the big white bin. And then, if somebody could work with Steve to take the cartridges out, Steve can show you how to take the cartridges out, and we're gonna put these away. So, Steve, if you would take care of that, maybe with Colin, you want to help Steve with that? And I'm gonna get this big white bin over here. Your stratas are over here. We're gonna let them close a little bit more.
Unlock it.
Or you
Flip
can go
that
to the
up.
kitchen, you know how to
And
use
then
the
it just lifts.
Oh, you know, yeah? Yeah.